Hello everyone, welcome back to my season 8 rewrites. We are down on episode 4. A quick recap. Last episode we was mainly about the rescue mission of Yara. It's kind of failed. Theon was the only one to make it out alive. He tried to rescue Yara, but Yara in the end got shot by several arrows by Bran. Theon is sailing towards White Harbor. That's where our episode 3 ended. For the rest, it was kind of, catching up. King's Landing, not that much had happened. In Winterfell, things are just, progressing. Tormund, Beric, Podrick, and some other men have set up camp somewhere on the King's Road, as the outposts that was discussed in the second episode. That being said, we are in episode 4. Which I've called Lord of Lights. It's our longest episode. It's actually 63 minutes, so it's more than an hour. This one, whilst I was making this, I thought to myself, this one's going to be a pretty controversial one, I think. Judging by the title, again, you probably know what it's going to be about. I think this was an episode that was necessary. It's an episode that was necessary to progress the plots. That being said, I hope you enjoy, and of course, if you got any feedback or any reactions, you can always put that down in the comments below. So alright, let's jump straight into it. The bounty hunters arrive at King's Landing with Jaime. He is taken to Cersei, who gives a large sum of money to the hunters. She has a conversation with Jaime, in which her madness once again is shown, calling him a traitor and unworthy. Jaime still holds affection for Cersei, but now he also clearly sees what she really is. He is thrown in a cell. The preparations for the wedding with Euron begin, making Euron very enthusiastic. Because of this, Euron sends his second-in-command to take a part of his fleet to Dragonstone and take it. Euron and Cersei both go upstairs to their bedroom, where they again get intimate. Theon arrives at White Harbor, where he gives Yara a funeral by himself. He places her on one of the lifeboats from his ship, places lots of hay in it, and sends it off. He shoots a flaming arrow from a distance that lands on the boat, causing it to burn. Theon emotionally finds himself a horse and rides for Winterfell. In Winterfell, Sansa sends a raven towards King's Landing, asking about the state of affairs regarding the troops. Jon sits around with all the lords discussing the defense of Winterfell and how they plan on defeating the army of the dead. No one has any idea of how to defeat the Night King, only how they can try to defend the castle for as long as possible. In the Godswood, Bran has a vision. In his vision, he walks across the battlefield with thousands of dead bodies. Heavy snow is falling everywhere and a gentle breeze flows. He goes to a hill. On this hill, he sees another giant weirwood tree. Suddenly, a giant shadow emerges. The shadow of a warrior on a tall horse with a sword that is lit with fire. The warrior casts away the snowstorm and sheds light on the entire battlefield. Bran wakes up with Sam beside him. He asks what he saw and if he knows some more information about how to defeat the Night King. Bran responds by saying that he doesn't know. In the outpost on the King's Road, Beric is holding the watch, alongside with some other men. Tormund and Podrick are walking through the woods and they have a humorous conversation. In this conversation, Podrick asks Tormund about his past. He mentions that he has 2 daughters and a wife. He says that he also had a son, but he was killed in battle. Tormund briefly shows an emotional sign by saying that he was very proud of him. They both continue their conversation on a more serious and respectful note. In Winterfell, Jon and Daenerys walk through the woods to Drogon and Rhaegal. Here they have a romantic moment, but then Daenerys climbs onto Drogon and insists that Jon should climb onto Rhaegal. Jon hesitates, but eventually complies, and both of them go on a flight with the dragons. They land somewhere near a waterfall. As both dragons guard the territory, Jon and Daenerys go past the waterfall and enter a cave. Jon has some flashbacks to the time when he was in a cave with Ygritte. Jon and Daenerys both get intimate inside it. In King's Landing, Qyburn receives a raven from Sansa and informs Cersei about it. She responds by saying that the troops will arrive at Winterfell shortly. The elephants of the Golden Company arrive and are armed and armored. Cersei meets Strickland and orders him to get ready. She also meets Bran, who she thanks for his services. She will reward him with his heart's desires if he goes to Winterfell alongside Strickland and kills some persons of interest. Bran hesitates, but when Cersei suggests to give him Highgarden, if he complies, he does agree. Afterwards, Bran visits Jaime in the cells. Jaime begs him to change his mind, but Bran remains stubborn, saying that Cersei has a decent chance of winning this fight. Later that day, the entire Golden Company, Bran, the Mountain, 20 Scorpions, and 75% of the Lannister army under the command of Strickland depart for Winterfell. In Winterfell, Jon and Daenerys arrive back. Not much later, the guards sound a horn for another rider that is approaching. Davos goes to the walls and notices Melisandre approaching on a horse. She claims to have important news and is eventually let in by Daenerys. Melisandre gets a despised look from Davos, but gives no reaction to it. Melisandre urges to have a moment alone with Jon, but no one lets her. She eventually goes to Bran, asking him if he has had the vision. Bran acknowledges this and tells the rest about his vision that he had earlier, about a warrior with a flaming sword. Melisandre says that it is the destiny of the prince who was promised. A lot of eyes go to Jon, but he is also speechless. Melisandre again begins to talk about the Lord of Light and that he has brought back Jon for a reason. Upon hearing this, Davos intervenes and warns Jon about the fact that she drove Stannis mad by saying these things, not to mention that she is a murderer. Eventually, Jon decides to imprison her. Melisandre is brought to the cells by Grey Worm. That night, Jon is struggling with his emotions. He visits Bran, who tells him about his vision and that it might help them in defeating the Night King. Jon also goes to talk with Tyrion and Varys, who remind him that the help of the Fire Priests helped them a while back in Meereen. Jon also thinks about the terrible deeds of Melisandre and that he promised to hang her if she would ever return. This eventually persuades him. He goes to the cells alongside Grey Worm and Davos, where he officially sentences Melisandre to die. After a short discussion, she accepts her fate, but asks not to be killed by hanging, but by fire. Later that night, everyone is gathered outside the castle walls for the sentence. That same time, Bran has the same vision again. Melisandre says several Valyrian words over and over again until she is killed by Drogon, who breathes fire on her. Bran again sees the warrior in his vision, but from the moment Melisandre is killed, the warrior goes up in flames. Bran remains alone in his vision as he stands in the battlefield among thousands of dead bodies, with the snowstorm getting more intense. Okay, that was episode 4, Lord of Light. There are a lot pretty much happened in this episode. All progressing the plot. Podrick, Tormund, and Beric just keep on guarding the outpost. There was a short, nice, I think, emotional moment with Podrick and Tormund. That being said, Jaime is imprisoned by Cersei. Cersei has sent a huge army towards Winterfell, alongside with the elephants. Also, Bran, the Mountain, Strickland, the entire Golden Company. Several Scorpions are all being sent to Winterfell, so we'll have to see what that's all about. Apart from that, I think an important thing is that Bran has started to get visions. In this episode, visions that might help them in defeating the Army of the Dead. You don't know that at this point. That being said, Melisandre returned and she has finally met her fate. She has been burnt alive by Drogon. That being said, she right before she is burned alive, she started blubbering several Valyrian words over and over again, which were pretty vague. And also, as you probably know, from the moment Melisandre dies, this affects Bran's vision he's having at that moment. So, a lot of mysteries, a lot of questions that are being raised right now. Yeah, that was pretty much it, guys. I hope you liked the episodes, and I'll see you in time for episode 5. Thank you.